The following program is brought to you by spare change found in Elon Musk's pocket, a grant from the H Grant and Granny Grant, and viewers like you.
In the fourth month of 1966, a young Polish couple who met 7 years prior concluded their successful and much heralded Bryan project just outside of Buffalo, New York. Brian Lewandowski grew up reasonably well-mannered in a suburban Catholic home. His grades were good and his friends were aplenty. Yet, he had a bit of a crazy side.
Run.
This bit of quirkiness was fully on display as he visited his distant relatives. They hypothesized on how it developed.
I think what you really find with Lewandowski is that even though he may have been scared by a movie or something, a lot of his pain that he channels into his quirkiness comes from being a Buffalo Bills fan.
His love of the Bills grew from birth. His grandmother cleaned the homes of the AFL champions in the 60s. His father was an avid fan since the team's inception. Brian learned that such an interwoven following with such an unpredictable team could bring great joy, and more importantly, even deeper sorrow. In an attempt to heal himself and rally his teams and fellow mafia, he turned to drinking maple syrup and shots of hot beer cheese. It should be noted that this documentary hasn't the time to discuss his favorite hockey team. While Brian has no love for Thomas Brady nor the so-called Patriots who play American football in a shopping mall, he was a fan of his original arch-rival, Miami, who caught his eye.
Talk about needing a miracle to turn his life around. Finally, a girl liked him.
They would go on to give birth to his only natural offspring, Allison. Her mixture of Brian's personality and her mother's drive would lead her to graduate Syracuse University, travel the world, and eventually move to Manhattan, where Allison would be one of Victoria's Secret's point people for worldwide distribution of women's underwear. During these years, Brian set forth to find out what drove him. What did he want to be when he grew up? Spoiler alert, he never grew up. He could learn that he was a whisk taker, pun intended, and soon he tried his hand at stand-up comedy.
One of the things that I also dislike about Facebook is finding out how religious people are after you friend them. It drives me nuts. I had this one friend that I'd known forever, and then she posted one of those memes, memes, whatever you want to call them, and it said, prayer is the key to heaven, but faith unlocks the door. Now I thought about that for a minute, and then I typed underneath, why the hell is the door locked? What is heaven in Newark?
That led to a series of well-received books, especially if he handed them out for free. Coinciding with those were on and off television stints. including as a promo writer and a social media
after
creator.
another. In Joe Carnahan's low-budget, blood, guts, bullets, and octane.
This. On days when I'm not too sharp, it can mean a lawsuit.
Attention! Understand you've been licking yourself in public again, Riker. Am I gonna have to recommend that you start wearing diapers? Let's keep the privates private.
Certain works, while not realized by their less than observant subject, were subversive and garnered a bit of media attention.
I want to show you a Twitter ad as we go here. Here's the Twitter ad promoting the show. She's coming with a full heart and a full magazine. Peter, there's a joke in here somewhere about what about serving a full term. But I'm not going to make it, will you? No, I'm not going to.
Brian also did photographic art as a hobby. A few gallery shows and recognition from Smithsonian Magazine followed, but nothing seemed to be his calling. But then fate came knocking once again. He met Carrie Williams, and she became his current wife. With Carrie, his family grew, and grew, and grew. She convinced him to move to Charlottesville, Virginia, and then to the nearby hamlet of Keswick, a place described gloriously by the New York Times.
What won't escape you, though, are the white farm fences that stretch for miles along Route 22 and 231, a section of road where the two routes converge that has often been cited as one of the most scenic in America. A two-lane country road, it's framed by rolling green pastures of horse, cattle, and sheep farms.
Here they designed and built a small but efficient farmhouse. The pastoral serenity led Brian to take up gardening. And then to learn how to be a better cook. Carrie convinced Brian that having a quote-unquote bevy of critters would bring in even more joy. So with his life fairly comfortable now, where has this journey brought Brian? No one is exactly sure, but it has brought him to NEB, and he certainly aspires to even greater web work here. Perhaps someday he will evolve into a monarch butterfly and flit around the gardens of Ipswich. Don't hold out hope, though. He is still struggling with learning to do impressions of moths.
Coming up next on most of these BPS stations, Nova presents Do These Genes Make My Butt Look Big? A study of DNA and our physique, next on BPS.